The Complaint Assembly. The massive Galactic Council station hung in space like a crystal flower, its transparent walls catching the light from 3 different suns. Inside the main assembly hall, creatures from across the galaxy gathered around a circular table that could have housed a small city. The air was thick with tension, and the strange mix of oxygen blends needed to keep dozens of different species alive. Chairman Vextar stood at the center of the room, his 4 arms clicking nervously as he called the emergency session to order. His insectoid features showed obvious stress, compound eyes reflecting the concern of every delegate present. The crystalline formations on his head pulsed with a dim red light, indicating his agitation. Fellow beings of the Galactic Council, Vextar began, his voice carrying through translators to reach every species in their native tongue. We gather today to address a matter of grave concern. The human vessel known as Stellar Drifter has caused incidents across 17 different star systems in the past 6 months alone. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Near the back of the room, Captain Elena Vasquez sat quietly with her chief engineer, Dr. Marcus Chen. Elena was a woman in her 40s with graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that had seen too much of the galaxy's dangers. Marcus, younger and more nervous, fidgeted with a small device that beeped occasionally, drawing annoyed looks from nearby aliens. The complaints are numerous and serious, Vextar continued, gesturing to a holographic display that showed a star map dotted with red warning markers. Ambassador Serenity of the Zephyrian Peace Collective will present the first grievance. A tall, ethereal being floated forward, her translucent blue form shimmering like water. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Zephyrian meditation worlds have maintained perfect silence for over 2,000 years. Our people achieve enlightenment through absolute quiet, undisturbed by any artificial sound. The hologram shifted to show a peaceful planet covered in silver meditation domes. 3 weeks ago, the human ship passed through our system. Instead of using standard silent propulsion through our space, they activated what they called emergency rockets directly above our primary meditation center. The sound was so loud it cracked the crystal formations our people use for deep contemplation. Elena stood up, her boots making a soft thud on the metal floor. With respect, Ambassador, we received a distress call from a cargo freighter whose life support was failing. We had to reach them quickly or 37 beings would have died from oxygen poisoning. Standard protocol requires requesting permission before using high-energy propulsion in sacred space, Serenity replied, her form flickering with slight annoyance. The proper procedure would have taken only 4 hours to complete. Those people would have been dead in 2 hours, Elena said firmly. We saved 37 lives by being loud for 5 minutes. Chairman Vextar's clicking intensified. Captain Vasquez, please allow the other delegates to present their complaints before responding. The next speaker was Trade Minister Gornex, a large reptilian creature whose scales shifted color as he spoke. The Stellar Drifter has repeatedly violated shipping lane protocols. Last month, they transported medical supplies to the outer colonies using cargo containers attached to the outside of their ship with magnetic clamps. A hologram now showed the human ship with dozens of large containers clinging to its hull like metal barnacles. Several alien delegates made sounds of shock and dismay. That configuration is completely unsafe, Gornex continued, his scales now a deep red with anger. No ship should carry external cargo without proper docking clamps and safety certifications. When questioned, the humans claimed they were in a hurry because children were dying from a plague outbreak. Marcus couldn't stay quiet any longer. Sir, with respect, our cargo bay was already full of water purification equipment for the drought on Kepler 7. We couldn't leave medical supplies behind when kids were sick. The magnetic clamps worked perfectly fine. They worked until one container came loose and nearly destroyed a trade station. Gornex shot back, his tail lashing behind him. That container was empty by then, and nobody got hurt. Marcus protested. We even helped repair the damage. After causing it in the first place, Gornex hissed. Dr. Thalen, the chief medical officer of the Galactic Health Federation, stepped forward next. She was a tall, gray-skinned humanoid with 6 delicate arms and eyes that seemed to see everything. The medical concerns are perhaps the most serious of all. The humans have been performing unauthorized medical procedures on alien species without proper certification or equipment. The hologram shifted again, showing the inside of the Stellar Drifter's medical bay. It looked more like a mechanic's workshop than a proper hospital, with tools and equipment scattered everywhere and jury-rigged machines humming with improvised electronics. 2 months ago, they treated a crystalline ambassador who had suffered poisoning from exposure to human coffee, Dr. Thalen explained. Instead of following standard detoxification procedures, they used their ship's water recycling system to filter the toxins from his bloodstream. Alina rubbed her forehead tiredly. Dr. Foster did what she had to do. We were 3 days from the nearest medical station, and Ambassador Keth was dying. The recycling system worked because it's designed to remove harmful substances from water. Blood is mostly water. That is not how medical treatment works, Dr. Thalen said, her 6 arms gesturing in what appeared to be medical sign language. You cannot simply adapt ship systems for biological applications. It is dangerous and unpredictable. But it saved his life, Alina pointed out. Keth made a full recovery and even sent us a thank you message. That is beside the point. Dr. Thalen replied coolly. Luck is not a substitute for proper medical procedure. Chairman Vextar's compound eyes swept the room as more delegates prepared to speak. The list of violations continues. Environmental disruption on 7 worlds, improper waste disposal in 3 star systems, unauthorized weapons modifications, and the infamous incident where they allegedly used mining explosives to create a new shipping route through an asteroid field. That asteroid field was blocking emergency supplies from reaching a disaster zone, Alina said, her voice rising with frustration. We cleared a path that saved weeks of travel time. Those supplies included blood plasma for accident victims. You destroyed a protected geological formation without permits, Vextar replied sternly. The Asteroid Preservation Society is still demanding reparations. Captain Alina Vasquez stood up fully, her hands planted firmly on the table in front of her. Around the room, aliens of various shapes and sizes watched her with expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Marcus Chen remained seated beside her, his device beeping more frequently as his stress levels rose. I understand that our methods seem unconventional, Alina began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. But every single thing we've done has been to save lives or help people in need. We don't have the luxury of waiting for proper permits when children are dying or when people need rescue. A new voice spoke up from across the room. Council Member Jix, a floating gas cloud being contained within a translucent suit, drifted forward. Captain, your intentions may be noble, but the galaxy operates on established protocols for good reasons. These rules prevent chaos and ensure safety for all species. Your rules also get people killed, Alina replied bluntly. How many beings have died waiting for proper paperwork while their ships exploded or their planets suffered disasters? The room fell silent except for the various breathing, clicking, and humming sounds of the different alien species. Vextar's crystalline formations pulsed more rapidly, indicating his growing discomfort with the conversation. Captain Vasquez, Vextar said finally, the Council appreciates your dedication to helping others. However, your ship and crew have become a source of constant disruption across multiple sectors. We cannot allow one vessel to operate outside all established safety protocols. Alina felt her heart sink. She had known this moment might come eventually. The Stellar Drifter and her crew had always been different from other ships in the Galactic Fleet. Where others followed rules and procedures, they improvised and adapted. Where others waited for proper authorization, they acted to save lives. What are you proposing? She asked, though she already suspected the answer. The Council demands a full inspection of your vessel, Vextar announced. A team of specialists will examine every system, every modification, and every piece of equipment aboard the stellar drifter. If your ship cannot meet basic safety standards, we will be forced to restrict your operations to human space only. Marcus made a small sound of distress. Being confined to human space would mean they couldn't continue their rescue and supply missions to the outer colonies where different alien species lived. Thousands of beings depended on their unconventional but effective help. And if we refuse the inspection? Elena asked. Then you will be banned from all non-human space immediately. Vextar replied, his voice carrying the weight of final authority. The decision is yours, Captain. Elena looked around the room at the assembled aliens. Some seemed sympathetic, others appeared hostile, but all watched her with intense interest. These beings represented hundreds of different worlds and billions of different lives. They had rules and procedures because order was necessary for such a vast civilization to function. But Elena also knew that rules without compassion were just barriers to helping people who needed it most. We'll submit to your inspection, she said finally, but I want it on record that every rule we've broken was broken to save lives. Your objection is noted, Vextar replied. Inspector General Vorth will lead the examination team. They will arrive at your ship within 48 hours. As the delegates began to file out of the chamber, discussing the proceedings in their various languages, Elena and Marcus remained seated. The weight of the situation pressed down on them like the gravity of a heavy world. Captain, Marcus said quietly, what if they find something that forces us to stop? What happens to all the people who depend on us? Elena was about to answer when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and blue as an automated voice announced in multiple alien languages. Priority distress signal received. Massive civilian convoy under attack in the Vega system. All available vessels respond immediately. The chamber erupted into chaos as delegates rushed toward the exits, many speaking rapidly into communication devices. Vextar's crystalline formations now pulsed bright white with urgency. Elena and Marcus exchanged looks. The Vega system was only 6 hours away at maximum speed, but the stellar drifter could make it in 4 if they pushed the engines hard. A civilian convoy meant thousands of innocent lives at risk. Captain, Marcus said, reading her expression perfectly, we're supposed to wait for the inspection team. Elena was already moving toward the exit. Dr. Chen, how long do you think those people have if pirates are attacking civilian ships? Marcus checked his device quickly. Not long enough to wait for proper authorization. Then we better get moving. As they hurried through the station corridors toward their docking bay, Elena couldn't help but smile grimly. In 48 hours, Inspector General Vorth would arrive to examine their ship and their methods. But right now, people needed help, and the stellar drifter was the fastest ship available. Some things were more important than following rules. Proving human worth. The stellar drifter burst out of hyperspace like a comet, its engines glowing white-hot from the brutal pace Captain Elena Vasquez had demanded. Through the main view screen, the crew could see a nightmare unfolding in the blackness of space. A massive civilian convoy stretched across several thousand kilometers, dozens of huge transport ships carrying families, supplies, and refugees from the recent conflicts in the Outer Rim territories. They moved slowly and peacefully, protected only by light shields and their faith in the galactic peace treaties. Surrounding them, like hungry sharks, were 8 sleek raider vessels, their hulls painted in the chaotic colors that marked them as belonging to the Crimson Void pirates. Energy weapons flashed between the ships as the raiders systematically destroyed the convoy's defensive systems while avoiding damage to the valuable cargo holds. Status report, Elena called out as her crew rushed to their stations. Dr. Marcus Chen's fingers flew over his engineering console, pulling up system diagnostics and tactical assessments. Convoy consists of 42 civilian vessels carrying approximately 50,000 beings of various species. Raiders are using ion cannons to disable ships without destroying cargo. Estimated time before complete convoy capture, 37 minutes. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the ship's tactical officer, looked up from her weapons console with a grim expression. Captain, those raiders are military-grade vessels. We're outgunned 8-1. Elena studied the tactical display, her mind already working through possibilities that would make most spaceship captains run for safety. The stellar drifter was tough and fast, but it wasn't a warship. What it had was a crew that thought differently than everyone else in the galaxy. Dr. Foster, are the medical bays ready for casualties? Elena asked. Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's chief medical officer, nodded from her position near the rear of the bridge. Medical bay is prepped, and I've converted Cargo Bay 3 into an emergency treatment center. We can handle up to 200 patients if necessary. Good. Marcus, I need maximum power to engines and shields. Divert everything non-essential. Already done, Captain. But we'll be flying on fumes if this fight lasts more than 20 minutes. Elena turned to her communications officer. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, open a channel to the convoy lead ship. A scared voice crackled through the speakers, speaking in the musical language of the Antarian species. The universal translator rendered it into English. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Melody of Stars commanding the refugee convoy Hope's Journey. We have families aboard these ships, including over 8,000 children. The raiders are demanding surrender, but we know they will sell our people as slaves. Please, if you can help us. Elena's jaw tightened. Slavery was illegal throughout the galaxy, but the Outer Rim territories were hard to patrol, and pirates like the Crimson Void operated with impunity in the spaces between civilized worlds. Captain Melody of Stars, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Stellar Drifter. We're here to help. Get your people to the inner sections of your ships and brace for some rough flying. One ship cannot fight 8 raiders, came the reply, hope and despair warring in the alien captain's voice. Watch us, Elena said grimly. She turned to her crew. Sarah, what kind of unconventional ammunition do we have in storage? Lieutenant Kim checked her inventory displays. We've got those mining charges from the asteroid clearing operation, sensor probes that Marcus modified with proximity detonators, and about 50 cargo containers that we could launch if needed. Cargo containers? Dr. Foster asked in confusion. Elena smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Emergency supply drops. Marcus, can you rig those containers with magnetic clamps and basic thrusters? Marcus's eyes lit up with understanding. Captain, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? If you're thinking we're going to use cargo containers as improvised weapons, then yes. Dr. Foster shook her head in amazement. I've been on this ship for 3 years, and you people still find ways to surprise me. Sarah, target the lead raider ship. Use a modified sensor probe, but program it to think the raider's engine section is a really interesting asteroid formation that needs close examination. Lieutenant Kim's fingers danced across her controls. Probe away, Captain. Impact in 15 seconds. The small sensor probe streaked across space, its modified programming, convinced that the pirate ship's engine was a fascinating geological specimen that required immediate and intimate investigation. The probe burrowed through the raiders' shields as if they weren't there, designed as it was to penetrate planetary atmospheres and asteroid fields. When it reached the engine compartment, the explosives Marcus had packed inside detonated with spectacular results. The lead raider ship went dark and began tumbling through space, its engines completely destroyed. 7 left, Sarah reported with grim satisfaction. The remaining pirates immediately turned their attention to the stellar drifter, recognizing the threat. Energy bolts and missile salvos streaked toward the human ship, lighting up space with deadly fireworks. Evasive maneuvers, Elena ordered. Pattern Delta 7. What happened next would have horrified any proper military academy instructor and amazed every physicist in the galaxy. The stellar drifter began to move in ways that defied conventional understanding of space combat. Instead of the careful, predictable movements that military doctrine prescribed, the ship twisted and spun through space like a dancer performing an impossible ballet. Marcus had modified the maneuvering thrusters using techniques he'd learned from studying dolphin swimming patterns and tornado wind dynamics. The ship could change direction so quickly and unpredictably that enemy gunners couldn't track it effectively. "Launch cargo containers," Alina ordered. Pattern shotgun 3. 20 cargo containers shot out from the stellar drifter's holds, each one equipped with magnetic clamps and basic guidance systems that Marcus had cobbled together from spare parts. To any normal observer, it looked like the human ship was jettisoning cargo in panic. The pirates took the bait, moving in closer to finish off what they thought was a fleeing merchant vessel. "Detonate," Alina said quietly. The cargo containers, now scattered among the raider formation, exploded simultaneously. But these weren't normal explosions. Marcus had filled each container with a mixture of industrial adhesive, metallic chaff, and chemical compounds that created massive electromagnetic pulses. The effect was like setting off 25 electronic warfare bombs at once. 3 pirate ships found their hulls covered in rapidly hardening industrial glue that fouled their weapon systems and blocked their sensor arrays. 2 more had their electronics completely fried by the electromagnetic pulses. 1 raider collided with another when their navigation systems failed simultaneously. In less than 5 minutes, 8 military-grade pirate vessels had been reduced to 1 barely functioning ship and 7 floating pieces of expensive scrap metal. "This is impossible," Dr. Foster muttered, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "We just defeated 8 warships using mining equipment and cargo containers." "The impossible is just the untested," Alina replied, something she'd learned during her years of improvised problem-solving. "Sarah, hail the remaining raider." The view screen flickered to show the bridge of the last pirate ship. The captain was a scared Vorthan mercenary whose reptilian features showed both rage and fear. Behind him, smoke poured from damaged control panels. "Human vessel," the pirate captain hissed, "you have won this battle. But the Crimson Void will remember this insult. We will hunt you across the galaxy." "Good luck with that," Alina replied calmly. "But first, you're going to help us rescue the people from the ships you damage." "We will do no such thing." Alina nodded to Sarah, who launched another modified sensor probe. This one was programmed to think the pirates' weapon systems were fascinating crystal formations that needed careful geological sampling. The probe neatly removed the raider's main cannon and tossed it into space. "Let me rephrase that," Alina said pleasantly. "You're going to help us rescue those people, or we're going to see how many different ship systems we can remove with our geology probes." The pirate captain's expression shifted from defiance to resignation. "What do you want us to do?" Over the next several hours, the crew of the Stellar Drifter coordinated the largest rescue operation in recent galactic history. Using techniques that no military manual had ever described, they'd managed to save over 47,000 beings from damaged ships, providing medical care, food, and temporary shelter. Dr. Foster performed surgeries using equipment that had never been designed for biological applications, saving lives that would have been lost to conventional medicine. Marcus jury-rigged life support systems for a dozen different alien species using spare parts and creative engineering. The entire crew worked without rest, driven by the simple human belief that every life was worth saving. As the last refugee was transferred to safety, Alina finally allowed herself to collapse into her captain's chair. Around her, the bridge crew looked exhausted but satisfied. They had done something that should have been impossible, and they had done it by refusing to accept that impossible was the same as undoable. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim reported, "we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council station." Alina sighed, expecting another formal complaint about their unconventional methods. "Put it through." Instead of Chairman Vextar's familiar clicking voice, the screen showed Captain Melody of Stars, the Antarian convoy commander. Her musical voice carried emotions that the universal translator couldn't fully capture, but the gratitude was unmistakable. "Captain Vasquez, there are no words in any language that can express what you and your crew have done for us today. You saved 47,000 lives using methods that no one else would have even attempted. The families aboard these ships will remember the name Stellar Drifter for generations." Before Elena could respond, the transmission was joined by dozens of other voices, representatives from the rescued ships, speaking in languages from across the galaxy, all expressing gratitude for the humans who had risked everything to save strangers. Dr. Foster wiped tears from her eyes. "Captain, I think we just became the most famous ship in the galaxy." Elena was about to respond when another transmission came through. This time it was Chairman Vextar, but his compound eyes showed something Elena had never seen before: respect. "Captain Vasquez," Vextar began, his crystalline formations pulsing with a warm golden light, "the Galactic Council has been monitoring your rescue operation. While your methods continue to violate numerous safety protocols, the results speak for themselves." Elena braced herself for another lecture about proper procedures and paperwork. Instead, Vextar continued, "The Council has voted to create a new classification for vessels like yours. Emergency response. Unconventional method status will allow ships with proven track records of successful life-saving operations to operate with greater flexibility during crisis situations." Elena blinked in surprise. "Sir, your inspection is cancelled, Captain. Instead, we would like to request that you and your crew serve as consultants to help other rescue vessels learn some of your more creative approaches to problem solving." Marcus looked up from his engineering station with a huge grin. "Captain, I think they just gave us official permission to be crazy." "Not crazy, Dr. Chen," Vextar corrected, somehow managing to convey amusement through his alien features. "Human. We are beginning to understand that for your species, those may be the same thing." As the stellar drifter prepared to escort the refugee convoy to safety, Elena reflected on the day's events. They had faced impossible odds and won through ingenuity, determination, and the very human refusal to accept that some problems couldn't be solved. In the depths of space, 47,000 beings from dozens of different worlds continued their journey to new homes, safe because one ship and its crew had decided that rules were less important than lives. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of pirates and disasters and challenges that conventional wisdom said couldn't be overcome. But as long as humans like Elena Vasquez and her crew were willing to try the impossible, those challenges would find themselves facing something even more dangerous than any weapon: human stubborn determination to help others, no matter what the cost. As they jumped to hyperspace, the stellar drifter's engines glowing with the same impossible brightness that had carried them to victory, Elena smiled and began planning their next impossible rescue mission. After all, somewhere in the galaxy, someone probably needed help. And Elena Vasquez had never met a problem that couldn't be solved with enough creativity, determination, and a complete willingness to ignore what everyone else said was impossible.